Hello, hello. Michelle Perta here, life and marriage coach for moms. Today I'm going to be talking to you about tools that you already have to help you with your arguments. So these tools you have with you all of the time. And so I wanted to remind you that you have these so that you can use them. Use what you got. When we're in arguments, we very easily get clouded by our emotions and we start to scramble, right? And especially if you haven't spent a ton of time actively trying to improve your communication, like me, right? Like this is literally my job to be good at it so I can teach you. So, and let's say your parents weren't great at communicating. You obviously didn't learn it in school. If you did, you're lucky because I didn't. And majority of the other people didn't either. So I want to remind you of what you do have within you as you start to build up your toolkit to be able to communicate better in your relationship. And these tools are your senses. What? Yeah, I know. Your senses, okay? So as a reminder, sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste, okay? Those are your 5 senses. So obviously, we're not talking about smell and taste here, all right? So what I'm going to be focusing on today that can help you navigate through arguments a lot more easily are sight, your hearing, and your touch, which I'm going to say feeling, okay? So when it comes to your sight, so much information is coming into us and you may not be using it. I learned to use this and it's been a very powerful shift in how I show up and navigate any arguments that I have. I'm able to pick up on more stuff. And so I want to share this with you so that you can start doing the same, okay? So when it comes to our sight, I want you to imagine the last fight that you had, right? Really put yourself in that situation again. What do you remember seeing? You saw their facial expressions. You saw their body language. So when it comes to their facial expressions, that tells you a lot. It tells you if they're confused. It tells you if they're upset, if they're sad. Their body language tells you how receptive they are to what you're telling them. It tells you how frustrated they might be or if they want to exit the conversation. And so I want to invite you to take that information in and pause and recalibrate with what direction you want to take the conversation. Because the point of the conversation or the point of an argument is not to continue fighting. It's not to ram your point into him or her until you've beaten them down to submission. That is not a partnership. That is not conscious partnership. That is not a relationship that you want. Don't you want to encourage more transparency, more vulnerability, more openness? Don't you want to know what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they want? If your focus is to say, I'm right, and I'm going to be doing my best to make sure you know I'm right. Oh, and bonus point, if you know you're wrong. But that's not what we're trying to create here. We want a conscious partnership where we're all being intentional, where we're all being able to fully express ourselves and then navigate amongst what we're learning, right? So when you see their facial expression and it confuses you based on what you're saying, let that signal to yourself that, oh, I need to recalibrate. I wonder what they're thinking. I wonder what they're feeling, right? So let's take an example. Let's say I'm sharing how I took the kids to the park and then saw an ice cream truck and let them have some ice cream. And then all of a sudden, I see my husband, Steven's face go, not what I'm expecting, but if I were to see that, I'd be like, oh, what's going on? You know, why the face? Or you can even ask something more specific. Oh, did you not like that I gave them ice cream? Or are you frustrated about something, right? You need to translate what their face is saying into words so that it could be brought into the conversation. Because if you don't, your brain has now taken in that information of, he didn't like what I said. And then you can go into overdrive and start getting defensive based on his face alone, without actually communicating that there's some kind of gap here between what you're trying to communicate and what he got, or what he's thinking and what you're thinking about the situation. So our job as communicators is to figure out how to reduce the number of assumptions and miscommunications as possible. We want to make sure that the message that we're trying to lay down is the message that they're receiving. Now, we're not going to be 100% all of the time or any time, but we want to be really close. Okay, so don't discount the information that you're receiving from your senses and bring it into the conversation, because while his face might be doing that, he might not know that that's what his face is doing. But guess what? That's some insight for you into him. So use it, okay? So anytime I'm saying something and my husband has like an unexpected reaction on his face, I will ask him, what did you just hear me say? Or how did you interpret what I said just now? That question alone is going to be so powerful, because that invites him to share his interpretation of what I just said. So then I can squash any assumptions that he's making that I did not intend for him to receive. Same for the body language. If all of a sudden they go from a relaxed state to tense, maybe the arms are crossed, or if he starts to turn away from you, you know something's up. Something is going on inside of him. Having that information come in, you want to draw out what's going on, expand the dialogue to work with, so that you can then work through it together with full transparency and openness, right? You don't know what you don't know, so you want to bring it out, because there's that little hint, there's a preview of something going on in there. Moving on to hearing, okay, hearing. There's tone, there's volume, there's cadence. So tone, let's talk about attitude. If you start hearing him talk differently, there's another clue. So if you hear that his volume is starting to raise or starting to lower, depending on how he reacts, right? Some people start to get really quiet when something's going wrong, and others get loud, okay? So whatever style your husband takes on, take that as a clue. Take that as a clue into inviting more connection, into understanding him and what's going on, so that you can then clarify if you need to, or get curious about the experience that he's going through. Is he recalling a previous event? Is he triggered by something? Don't know if you don't ask. Cadence. He can go from yep, 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 and all of a sudden he's talking faster, right? You can sense that he's flustered. Use that. It's not always good to focus on the word choice, because as you can see, communication is hard. And we're not always the most polite about it. We're not always respectful, especially when it comes to feeling emotions strongly. sometimes things we say, we regret, and we could have worded it differently had we been calm, right? But we are human and we cannot always be in full control over our emotions. But as we practice, we can get better, right? Always, always work in progress. You can choose to look at these different inputs from your senses to pull out what he might be trying to communicate rather than what is actually coming out, right? And I say this because when we're feeling attacked, even if it's not intentional, if we're feeling attacked, sometimes all bets are off. And we revert to our toddler-like self where we get vengeful. We dig up anything that could be hurtful and we spew it out, right? Like, because phrase, hurt people, right? So like an example, my 4-year-old, he is quite the personality, very, very demanding, very certain of himself, also very particular. And he punks on my 11-year-old, who is like a teddy bear, very gentle, nurturing type. They're very opposite. And my oldest kept telling Dylan, my 4-year-old, stop. And then he got fed up, right? And then he threatened to take his favorite stuffy, very natural, normal reaction, right? But that's an example of how hurt people. Very normal, but we're not going for normal here. We're going for healthy. We're going for conscious partnership. We're going for intentionality. Do we want to continue this pain to get pain cycle? No. We do not want to continue that. We want to break it, right? Because we're modeling, right? We're modeling to our kids how to communicate. And so we're not going to do that. We're going to choose to steer away from that and go towards more healthy communication. All right. And the last one, feeling, which I'm subbing for touch, right? Feeling. This includes your feelings, right? Getting in touch with how you feel. Your body, are you starting to tense up? Is your heart starting to race? Do you feel knots in your stomach? Are you getting a headache? Do you feel a lump in your throat? Is your chest feeling tight? Are your shoulders starting to feel like tight? Are your fists clenching? Are your eyebrows furrowed? All of that is information for you to take in about how you feel, because the body leads. The body leads, and as soon as you start to become more aware of what's going inside of your body, that's like a signal to you, like, oh, something's wrong, like, alert, alert, alert. I'm getting worked up right now. Okay? So next time you're in an argument, if you don't already do this, pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on inside your body. And I assure you, you will start to get better and better about recognizing when to take a deep breath and center yourself again to show up more intentionally in your arguments, whether it's giving yourself space, whether it's choosing to reset and reflect on how you feel and what you want. Okay, do that. Also, your current state, just like what I was talking about, your physical state, how you feel. Relaxed? Are you tense? How did you go into the conversation? Are you still the same? Are you still the same, right? Always calibrate. And then, yeah, I think that's it. So use what you got to navigate through arguments more successfully, more productively, invite more information to come through what you can sense from your sight, your hearing, and your touch, which I'm saying feeling, okay? And see what happens. It's all about getting curious. It's all about being intentional, all right? And if you want more tools than what you already have, I have a mini course on communication that I invite you to look into. That is probably the most affordable way, besides being here and follow my Instagram page, on how to receive support from me. That's all I got for you today. Sending you big, big hugs and lots of love. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.